Triple bird. I think triple bird is fine here. I mean, how did we get here? Yo, that cask lethal? Can we talk about that? Prankster burn? Oh god, could it be Prankster burn? Prankster burn is a good idea. That is a fun deck. It is fast. The first deck we ever hit rank 1 with, which is pretty cool. Like, it'll always hold a special place in my heart, Prankster burn. And it's not really good. Like, there's better burn decks, but I actually do miss this deck a lot. I'm gonna try to like build a newer version. I'll kind of update it as I go a little bit, but it's kind of like a fun deck that's also able to, you know, actually climb end games fast. I mean, I probably would be take a while to climb to like masters with this deck, but at least in like these unrated games, it'll end games very quickly. Forge Chief might be kind of good. Forge Chief has been kind of like popping off in a lot of like similar like early game PNZ decks. It's a really good turn 1 play in the meta right now. I can main deck Caustic Cask. That's burn. That's cheap. That's fast. That will lead to blowouts. Could I say no to Caustic Cask? Combos with Stygian Onlooker? It is kind of nuts. No, this deck curves ridiculously low. This is very, very, very stupid. Something roughly like this. I'll start with this version. You can run, I mean, if you're going full in on Prankster, you can run trolley stuff like Haunted Relic. Oh man. All right, the Prankster burn on a ranked climb. Let's see. Oh yeah, so we're in for a long one here. 1 minion. I guess minion's not unthinkable as a one of. God, what if that's actually all right? 1 minion in this deck. Okay. I mean, he basically has to have twin if he's doing this. Okay, sure. Or pale, yeah, sure. Even better for me.
Come closer. I don't bite.
All right. You have a bit of an awkward start, but I mean, it's Karma Zoe. He basically doesn't actually end games with Karma Zoe, right? Yeah, it's a little too early for Prankster. We'll want to use it on the defensive turn here since we're not going to need Cask Salesman for defense. This is actually a bit of an interesting one because against like an aggro deck, like against the deck where they're racing us down, you want to use Cask Salesman on the defensive turn, which would mean that we might want to Prankster this turn to set it up. But in this matchup, they're not really putting pressure on us, so we're not using Cask on the defensive turn, so we want to use Prankster on the defensive turn, so we want to make sure we're just pushing damage here with Stygian Onlooker. I think the biggest mistake people make in Prankster decks, by far, is they will just play Prankster too early. A lot of people will be thinking along the lines of, well, the earlier you play Prankster, the more damage it'll deal, but that's true of every card, right? Like, you usually want to play it on like turn 4 or 5 and not on turn 3. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this matchup should be fine for me. He basically, I mean, he'll run like Guiding Touch or something, but he can't really reasonably run enough heal cards to make a difference here. And a slow deck is just going to lose the burn. So Equinox.
Targon's history is in each stone and star.
Okay. Well, I mean, we still have more than enough damage, but whatever. Bro. Like, that's just rude. So if we're trying to maximize damage here, it's got to be Poro Cannon on something if we have it. Stalking Shadows opener and see what we get off of it. got to be Onlooker here. Yeah, Cask Salesman, obviously. I mean, we have literally 6 damage worth of Cask Salesmans in our hand right now, which is pretty funny. Zoe's developing. Sometimes he actually just tanks this 4, and then we have lethal with these Cask Salesmans. Okay, he didn't tank the 4, but he's tanking 2 because he only has 1 fearsome blocker, and that means the 3 Cask Salesmans are almost lethal. We're just gonna need a little bit more. Yeah, seems good. Is this a challenge? No, this one's not a challenge. Well, I mean, I'm interested in refining this lower tier deck, and it's, I don't know. I mean, burn is good in the meta right now. Like, you could probably take this deck to ranked. A refined version of this deck could definitely be fine on ranked ladder in the current meta. But I'm just interested in playing some games, refining it, because I need to increase my unrated MMR so that I can play against actual decks and not literal new players when I do challenges tomorrow. But yeah, we're gonna start the challenges tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that.
This is the wrong path.
Wow, he just takes 4 instead of 2. Mister, that's ballsy. Ooh, I don't know about that. Yeah, you really might not have wanted to do that. All right, and I'm definitely just gonna play a used Cask Salesman right now, because of course I need you can't like play them on the same turn, so I need to deal the damage while I have it. Seems weird because the caustic casks aren't doing anything, but I don't need blockers here, right? I think this is actually a good deck to learn the fundamentals of the game. Like, I know we've been memeing for the last few hours, but for the next couple hours while I'm playing this deck, this will actually, like, if you're a new player, you'll actually learn some things from trying to understand how we're playing, because like the decisions we're making are pretty important. And decks like burn and elusives are really good decks to learn for having to like plan ahead and manage resources and flock. All right, so we have exactly 6 unstoppable damage in our hands. So if he doesn't have a guiding touch or whatever, he's just dead. He's killing our units, which is literally what we need in order to even be able to play all the caustic casks. So it's kind of necessary that he's attacking to us here.
Maybe you need a closer look.
Yeah, I think I need more Stalking Shadows in this deck, actually.
Let's make it deep.
Like, I think Stalking Shadows is one of the few ways to even be able to justify Prankster as a card. Yeah, I'll build this deck a bit more around Stalking Shadows. I can make some changes. I am not 100% sure if this deck should even be running Teemo. Teemo might be wrong here. Is Stalking not terrible? Stalking is a pretty bad card in general, but it's the only reason to even play something like Prankster Burn is basically to be able to get extra burn with Stalking Shadows, right? Like, Prankster is a really bad card if you're playing it early anyway. It has really massive synergy with Stalking Shadows because you can double up on the burn. Like, basically, the point of Prankster is unit-based burn, and the point of Stalking Shadows is unit-based burn. So it's a shame Stalking Shadows is 3 mana now, but it's basically the only reason to justify Prankster. Is if I'm not running Stalking Shadows, then I should just be running Spell Burn instead of more unit burn, right? Well, I mean, he's got elusive blockers, so I guess I'm just hoping that he doesn't have healing at this point. All right, no Ritual of Renewal and we're good. Fading is better? I think you might have to run both. Fading would be good here, for sure. This deck shouldn't run 0 fading. Absolutely. All right, he's got lifesteal, but no ability to actually attack with it. So, yeah. No, I mean, looks like we squeak it. Unless there's a guiding touch. Yeah, I'll just pre-emote. That's good. Of course, we have to move in now because he could top deck the guiding touch. serious. I mean, I could just play both elusives. He'd have to block with Zoe, which can basically only be good for me, right? His Zoe might not. His Zoe's 9 out of 10 right now. If this guy doesn't have enough mana to play either of these two cards in hand, then the Zoe just dies here, which is hilarious. Okay, now it's a leveled Zoe. All right, are we losing this game? I mean, if he actually has like another Fangs and gives his board lifesteal, then we lose. If he doesn't have more, then we should still win. Like, we're still top decking into burn. We have to save the Daring Poro here because we could easily top deck a Doom Beast and need to activate the Nightfall for it. Oh, we're good. Oh, I got the Braum one in. That was... Oh, you see that? It's fucking sneaky Braum. So the way this deck works, usually you're playing units that deal damage early and then you're transitioning into burn, right? Like the way burn works, burn isn't really like a... Burn is barely a divergent concept. Usually there's a spectrum of like how much over the top you have in your aggro deck, right? If you're thinking about it like that, like here, let me pull up Paint. So like, I mean, it's usually a spectrum, right? If you have like a spectrum of basically just like initial aggression, which you can think of as like a ceiling for aggro value, which we're just going to call the initial aggression here, which is just like your early damage units. Legion Saboteur is like the best example. And then, of course, we've got on this end of the spectrum, we've got the floor for value, which is burn. It's like the burn over the top is always going to deal some amount of damage, but it'll never deal a nuts amount of damage. A Legion Saboteur can deal 9 damage sometimes, right? Like it can be insane. And the point of aggro versus burn, like burn is just like transitioning out of aggro. When you look at like an aggro deck, like Elise Spiders, for example, they run some amount of over the top burn. When the deck gets to be called burn is in metas where you're favored in speccing into more of that burn. Like right now, burn is pretty good. It beats a few of the decks that are very good in the meta right now. It's a pretty good way to over the top against decks that you're losing out on board presence against. Decks like Ari Kennen and decks like Pantheon that have ways of dealing with your board after turn 4 or 5 need to transition into burn. And if you're thinking about it with deck building, you need to transition into burn later. And again, it's not really so much of a divergent concept. You shouldn't really be thinking about this as like two separate archetypes. It's more of a bell curve usually, whereas like divergence in deck building is a reverse bell curve, right? You have like an idea here, an idea here, and you can't really do anything with the sample there, right? I think a lot of people have this misconception that burn is kind of its own distinct identity, and it can be, but by the game's fundamentals it isn't. Now, what are ways to make a distinct identity towards burn? Well, a lot of draw, for example, are ways of adding to the burn identity, because your draw value goes up when you're drawing on those turns and you're more likely to be hitting into those cards and less likely to be hitting into cards like Precious Pet that don't do anything in the late game, right? Another way of doing that is cards like Stalking Shadows. Stalking Shadows, of course, being a draw card and having reliable ways of grabbing into burn tools in the late game means that you're more skewed towards burn and have less aggression. Now, you still exist on this spectrum here, right? Like you're still somewhere on this spectrum. You're like maybe here on the thing that's trending towards burn instead of aggro, but you still use cards like Stygian Onlooker. Onlooker is not going to be great to pull off of Stalking Shadows, but you need some amount of early damage, right? And I'm explaining all this because I want to talk about a couple cards, namely Ballistic Bot. Ballistic Bot is a bit of a problem. I'm not sure if I love Ballistic Bot for this deck because it's sort of in a bit of a weird middle ground where you don't want to be playing this card too early. Like, you want to do early aggression in the first 2 or 3 turns of the game, and then you want to transition pretty quickly into burn. But Ballistic Bot is really awkward because if you get it off of Stalking Shadows, it's often not going to be dealing much damage later, like significantly less than Boom Crew Rookie even, right? And of course, if you play it early, then it's too expensive for a 1/3 to really do anything to the aggro game plan, right? So Ballistic Bot is probably a lot more awkward to this deck's game plan than it might initially seem. That being said, I'm just saying there's an argument for cutting it. Third Stalking Shadows could be helpful. We've got 2 Fading Memories. I think I'll go like -1 Ballistic Bot and third Stalking Shadows. You really want to back end your burn right now. At this point in time, like Stalking Shadows is probably even better for this deck than like Glimpse, which is crazy. And the interesting implication of Stalking Shadows is that you want to have more followers than champions, because Stalking Shadows can pull followers but not champions. So now, I mean, you get into the question of like, do you really want 3 Teemo, 3 Elise? Could be less of each, could be even none of some, right? Like, you can definitely run a deck like Prankster Burn with less champions. Teemo obviously just won us that last game, which is pretty funny. But I'm not sure if I want this at all. Y3 Poro Cannon. Yeah, Poro Cannon might be bad too, actually. I like this card probably more than I should. It almost certainly can't be a 3 of, I think. We'll mess around with it and see if we can figure out why Boom Crew. Boom Crew is kind of perfect because it fulfills, unlike Ballistic Bot, which is bad on turn 2 and it's bad on turn 5, Boom Crew is good on both. Right? Like, that's really, really important. Like, Boom Crew will always be 2 damage in the late game, whereas Ballistic Bot will only sometimes be even 1 damage is not always Ballistic Bot, right? Boom Crew is basically always 2 damage late, and it's always a proactive or unit that they have to remove. Like, if they can't block it with a 3-2 on turn 2, then it's just great value. Boom Crew Rookie is like basically the identity of this deck. We're gonna have to play this deck to refine it a little bit more and figure out. Chump Wump. Oh yeah, Chump Wump is a 4/4 now. That is kind of funny. You could almost consider that. It's pretty slow. I think the biggest thing is like, so in a matchup like this deep, for example, it's really important to speed up. I don't think I can keep a single Fading Memories. It'd be nice too. It's a hit if we find Onlooker and remember to use it on Onlooker, unlike last time we were against Deep. We haven't lost a game yet with this deck, right? Alright, and here we go. This is like a good case for something like Boom Crew Rookie. We're always playing Boom Crew Rookie first here. It's just doing more damage. It's getting multiple. I mean, Deep doesn't have a 3 attack hitting to play on turn 2 here, so it's always getting multiple attacks. But yeah, the problem with Ballistic Bot is it's late and slow, right? Which means it's never really, great. Because usually in the late game, you want to be ending the game instead of like extending it further. There are definitely some exceptions. So this is a pretty slick development. It looks like it's Prankster this turn and then Bot into double Onlooker next turn. We can't afford all of that without the Spellman anyway, so we don't get the Ignite, but that's fine. Alright, we have a very, very good hand, and he didn't have Deadbloom Wanderer. If he doesn't have Deadbloom Wanderer, this matchup is actually basically completely free. If they have a single Deadbloom Wanderer, then this matchup gets hard fast. We drew the nuts. This is much better than Ballistic Bot.
My first big mission.
But yeah. If you, like, understanding why Boom Crew Rookie is better than Ballistic Bot in this deck is really, really important towards being a good deck builder. Because, like, Boom Crew Rookie is much, much better than Ballistic Bot in this deck. But it might not look like that at first to like a newer player. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Oh, that's so dumb. Alright. Well, this was fun.
Just gonna put this here.
Yeah, Boom Crew's nuts. Remember when this card had 4 health? Back in my day, Boom Crew Rookie used to be a 1/4. For this deck's problem solvers, I'm a really big fan of both Fading Memories and Poro Cannon. Right now, I'm feeling Poro Cannon is a 3 of quite a lot. I think the really big thing here is that Poro Cannon is a problem solver to a few things. If you draw it late, it's guaranteed damage, unlike Elise. It's a good way to unbrick weird ignitions from your ballistic bots on bad hands, which is good. It's good even against like elusive matchups. You're being able to transition this as a defensive card, which is great. And it gives you a proactive play if your hand is kind of bricked on turn 2 and you don't have much. Now, it's not going to do as much damage as Elise early, but it'll do more damage than Elise later. Sort of like Legion Saboteur versus Precious Pet, right? So I like Poro Cannon a lot. I'd probably cut down on Elise's before I start cutting down on Poro Cannon, actually. Like, Elise feels actively not amazing for this deck. She still probably feels better than Ballistic Bot, though. Ephemeral Bot is garbage anyway. Yep, an Ephemeral Bot is garbage anyway. So, Ballistic might be out of the deck entirely. I don't even know what I'd run at this point. Cask sounds better. Yeah, fuck bot. I'm a casker. But yeah, now I basically truly hate Ballistic Bot here. Again, one of the biggest problems of a burn deck, if you look at like a fundamental aggro triangle, like burn is basically slower aggro. It wins against things that aggro loses to, like, I don't know, Avalanche, right? Things that kill the board. Vile Feast, burn just doesn't really give a shit about those things. But it will just lose to aggro. Aggro will just race you down. So cards like Doom Beast, even cards like Used Cask Salesman that you can use to stop attacks, burn wants to load in cards that are good that burn. Doom Beast and Cask Salesman are both cards that burn, but also have defensive capabilities. And those are kind of the core of like what burn is as an archetype. You need reliable burn cards, you need draw, and you need your reliable burn cards, at least in some capacity, to have defensive capabilities, right? Just a random deck. All right. Monkey Idol then? Monkey Idol is actually a fair point there, basically, yes. It has part of the same problem that Prankster does because it's just inherently very removable. Okay. I mean, I guess I can just double Onlooker next turn. I guess that works.
Nothing like the great outdoors.
So to be able to double Onlooker this turn, you know, to push the damage. Oh god, what if he uses Make It Rain? Who plays Make It Rain? I would actually lose the game on the spot.
I know
Alright,
what
fine.
lurks in the shadows.
Yeah, unironically though, Monkey Idol is a legitimate suggestion. Like, that's a good one. I don't think Bilgewater has enough other reasons to be in Bilgewater. But yeah, with the identity of what burn is and what you want in a burn deck, Monkey Idol is great. Like, literally what you're looking for.
Fire knows
What happened? What if I just get excited her? Like, honestly. This is actually the most, this is the only important decision point in this round.
Eagle Scout learns by doing.
If I get excited her, he's burning himself. Smile. I mean, not, guys, we don't want that on turn 3 of the game. Like, I think I am actually okay with this though. But I guess I can glimpse. Just because I have an uncontested glimpse. Hi, Tito. Oh, Caustic, we've got to play. Oh, that's so good. Triple Stygian, boys, let's go. How you gonna call Caustic bad, dude? Oh, Prankster, my favorite. All right, Caustic is sick. Can we talk about this? Hold on. Or I could just play Prankster. I don't know. Prankster's also kind of funny here. We are summoning a spider. Triple bird. I think triple bird is funnier. Yeah, this one's definitely funnier. I mean, It's also lethal. How did we get here? What the fuck? Yo, that cask lethal? Can we talk about that? Alright, cask is sick. I'm gonna go in faster. This deck isn't fast enough. We're caskers. You really never want to double draw cask though. Most of cask is literally a Stygian onlooker enabler. That's why I put it in as a one of. No idea what this guy's deck is. Alright, Boomker Rookie it is. Okay. Ooh. Dude, I could have cast to save one damage there. How considerable is iterative improvement? Pretty not. It's close, but it's basically just gonna be worse than Glimpse or Stalking Shadows. You're like drawing one instead of drawing two, and the deck doesn't really need more draw. If you could run one, there's not really a lot of targets for it to hit. Like Stalking Shadows is better than iterative for sure.
Persistence is key.
Yeah, this is good burn damage. All right, the main deck Costa Cask is about to pay off. This is 2 damage with Prankster. It's insane.
From all the regions, we are one.
It's playtime.
That is quite the shame. All right, so how can I do this in a truly degenerate way? Ooh, it's probably a full attack, homie. I mean, I guess I'm fading memories my Boomker Rookie. Okay, this Prankster is actually hitting a pretty good spot, but that's basically just because this guy's playing a meme, like a random cards deck. Like Prankster does decent average damage, but it's just like has such a problem when the opponent is actually running cards that interact with me. Yeah, this looks good. All right, these Boomker Rookies are pretty ridiculous. It's like a 0-mana Mystic. I mean, the only problem with 0-mana Mystic is like Mystic Shot is a 0-mana Mystic. Like, okay. The entire point of Mystic Shot and Get Excited is that you can use them at fast speed when the opponent is like attacking and when your mana is completely locked out, right? Like in a burn deck, Mystic Shot is a 0-mana Mystic. It doesn't cost you mana, right? Which is really, really important to be aware of. That's kind of why stuff like Prankster is awkward, right?
Just gonna put this here.
Oh yeah. Oh, that looks good. Oh yeah.
Stand behind Braum.
Like playing things that are early on the board that do damage isn't really good, right? Like damage is kind of meant to be done later. The problem with Prankster is like you play it for 3 mana and it does a lot of damage for 3 mana, but to be able to get damage out of it, you have to play it early. And as it turns out, mana early is worth more than mana later, right? So it's not like 3 mana is not a universal metric for mana. It's 3 mana that you have to spend on like turn 3 or 4 to actually maximize its damage, which is going to be minimizing some of the other options as damage. And maybe Forge Chief is actually not bad in this deck. Like if you really want to go fast, getting that spell mana in is kind of nice. All right, and this is the Nut Caustic Cask. It's a blocker. It's kind of like a used cask salesman that just only has one body instead of three. But it's literally the best in slot right now. This card's insane.
Together we are united.
Isn't Eager Apprentice usually better for that compared to Forge Chief? No, because the point of Forge Chief is it's a turn 1 play. I'm not looking to maximize my mana. I'm looking to curve something into Elise or Boomker Rookie. And Eager Apprentice sends it to spell mana when it's your turn 2 play. Right? Like, you don't want to play Daring Poro on turn 1, and you don't want to play Stygian Onlooker on turn 1, right? For obvious reasons. Teemo is necessary in this deck because there's not really anything else you want to do on turn 1. Poro Cannon is good in this deck because it gives you an opportunity to play it on turn 1 if you have no other choice, but it's not great on turn 1. And by the way, like, that's most of the reason I'm running Caustic Cask, because Caustic Cask allows me to play Onlooker on turn 1. So it's effectively a turn 1 play, right? That's the most important thing to be thinking about is just like this framework of why I'm playing things on certain turns, right? Like deck building is all a matter of timing and turns. Right now, like Forge Chief is a consideration over Eager Apprentice because I need a turn 1 play. That's why Caustic Cask is in this deck, literally, because I need a turn 1 play. That's part of the reason why it's important to like think about mana in terms of not just like how much mana it costs, but what turn the card comes down on, right? You shouldn't be thinking about mana as like how much something costs, right? Like Prankster isn't a 3 mana card because you can't play it on turn 3 in almost any board state, right? Like you should almost be thinking about Prankster as more expensive than 3 mana because it comes out on like turn 4 or 5 usually. Right? And that's really, really, really important. It almost has nothing to do with the actual mana cost and everything to do with like the turn you're getting your value out on, right? And that's like the biggest difference in the mental framework that'll be really good at understanding like optimizing this deck. Everything just comes down to timing and turns, right? Like you want to balance your play and options during different turns and maintain a good balance of like somewhat proactive and maybe somewhat reactive options between all of those turn states. I mean, you don't need something reactive on like turn 1, I guess. Oh, I guess I had kind of funny lethal there. I don't know if that's funnier than this lethal though.
I'll scout ahead.
But seriously, like thinking about deck building like that will make all of you guys much, much, much better at deck building. That's the only like the real difference we're doing here, right? Like when you look at all the cards that kind of look good but maybe aren't, it's entirely a function of timing, right? Like everything comes down to the turn something is played on, right? Don't look at Glimpse like a 2 mana card. Look at Glimpse like a turn 6 card, right? And in that, it's, you know, you should be thinking about it as a replacement for like Astral Fox, right? Those turn 6 plays, right? So like when we go back to the deck builder with this in mind, you know, we're thinking about like what this deck needs. I mean, the reason that Poro Cannon I think is so good in this deck, maybe it's not a 3 of. A lot of you guys don't like it that much, but I'm very confident it's good, and it could maybe be a 2 of if I find something better. It enables a potential turn 1 play in multiple different ways. It can enable me to play this on turn 1 as a 1/1 elusive, but it's also a 0 mana spell, so it can enable Stygian Onlooker on turn 1. I'm perfectly fine playing this early, and it will deal good chip damage while allowing for blockers, which is what Burn wants to do. This card's also just criminally underrated. It's super, super, super good card in general, but it helps this deck do what this deck needs to do, like a gap in this deck's timing, right? This deck currently is really, really starved for timings on like turn 1, 2, and 3, right? 1, 2, and 3 are the biggest problems, which is why 3 Teemo and 3 Elise is necessary, not because these cards are nuts for this playstyle, but because they're nuts for the sequences that this deck wants to play for, right? Like it's the exact thing I was talking about earlier with Ballistic Bot, which is just like it hits the playstyle but not the sequences, and the sequences matter more than the playstyle, right? And that's why deck building isn't just a matter of like, you know, building out a bunch of cards that all say damage on them. It's about planning and mapping out a play, like a sequence of things in your head about how the entire game is going to go, right? That's going to be the most important thing. Part of the problem with Kyrie and Sunporker, and you know, some people suggested Kyrie and Sunporker, it's not unthinkable, but at least some part of the problem of Kyrie and Sunporker is this deck doesn't really want to be using something like Stalking Shadows on, you know, turn 3, right? Like we want to be getting in our damage early so we can transition into the burn late. And that's like when you think about it like that, you'll see the comparisons between all these cards, right? Like iterative is good, but don't think about the value that the card is giving you. Think about the timing, right? Like it's fighting with Glimpse and Stalking Shadows. Do I need a 7th of that kind of card? No, not really. At that point, I want to be ending the game with like Mystic Shot and Get Excited too, right? Because Mystic Shot and Get Excited share the same timing with like Glimpse and Stalking Shadows. They're doing different things, but they're around the same turns where you want to get them off. And it's important to have a mix of like card draw and
OMG,
damage, because you want to be drawing into the damage and not drawing into more draw.
Cask Salesman
right?
is my favorite bad card.
Like
less than 3.
So it's really important to sort out your timing. And don't get me wrong, Caustic Cask is almost certainly not proper and probably not a 2 of. But yeah, no, this is the biggest reason why like I'm looking at Blighted Caretaker, and I like Blighted Caretaker better than Phantom Prankster. I don't like this card, and you know, Phantom Prankster definitely hits some matchups, but Blighted Caretaker helps with the aggro matchup, and it helps a lot of hand states where we're looking to, you know, sweep the board on turn 3 or potentially get in more chip damage, like maybe let a Boom Karuki survive by dragging away a blocker, right? Like this is helping that turn 3 position, right? If you're just thinking, what am I gonna, like, what does this deck do on turn 3? Seriously, this deck struggles so much with the turn 3 play, right? Like that's our biggest lose condition, when we have hands that just don't do anything that we want to do on turn 3. All right, Kennen Poppy. So honestly, I will say I've got a stable turn 2 play. We're attacking on turn 2. I'm actually pretty happy keeping the Prankster in this hand. I think that's fine. Don't want to keep the cannon quite, but because we have our, like the play for our attack, you know, we've got Elise on 2, we're attacking on 2, we're defending on 3, and we're in a matchup where they can't deal with Prankster. I will actually keep Prankster in my opening hand. That's, yeah, Prankster is pretty good in the stack. It was a little edgy cutting down on Pranksters and Prankster burn. You guys are right. You got me.
Are you ready?
Wow, I've been countered. Yeah. So bit of a consideration here. We're going to be developing into turn 3 the Prankster, and turn 4 something into the Onlooker, depending on what we top deck by that point in time. We have a second Elise in hand, which means we can play a second Elise on 4. So second Elise into Onlooker, maybe even a double Onlooker, looks good. The only consideration to not attack with the Elise is here. We'd take 3 damage because the Bomber Twins would attack me on turn 3, but then on turn 4 we do the Elise attack with the Prankster, push a little bit more damage. I think because we have second Elise in hand, I'll trade it here. If we didn't, there's actually a call to not do this, because it pushes more total damage with Prankster. Like we'd take 3, but he takes 1. And this is a matchup where that's very considerable to go for. Like Bandle Tree is scary if they go for Tree, right? I think we can burn them faster than Tree anyway. And yeah, the Prankster is going to be necessary here. Super important. I don't really mind if he gets in a chip damage that we don't block because we didn't develop the Elise. The most important thing is leaving our unit mana up for the double Stygian next turn and making sure we're, you know, enabling maximum value out of Prankster. In this case, because we didn't have anything better to play on turn 3, we're pushing 1 damage because the spot, well, we're kind of saving 1 damage because we wouldn't have blocked with the spider yet if the Prankster wasn't on the board. Oh, that's so sad. Wow. This was actually a matchup where Prankster would have been hot. I mean, we're still basically just like deleting this guy next turn, but goodbye, Prankster. I could have played around explosive minefields on the Bomber Twins by not blocking with the spider. My Prankster would have lived. Because the stun's the strongest. If only. Alright, you got any fearsome blockers, buddy? Because, we're about to have a problem here. We lost. Oh, Bort, get out. Oh, that's bad. God, who still runs Sentry? And yeah, no, that's true. It is pretty good. All right. I mean, we have to push our damage while we can. Yeah, there is no way around this. Wow. This is all of a sudden not a lot of damage. If he has group shot, we're out. We're done. I fold. If only this card wasn't Caustic Cask. I don't know. I do need a sack target for Glimpse. Maybe Caustic Cask is genius here. It enables Doom Beast too. Okay, like 1 or 2 Caustic Casks in this deck is actually hot. Like no joke. It's probably 1. But it actually feels good. Like seriously.
Let's go. Grab my hat.
I was semi-trolling when I put it in. But like look at this. It enables the Doom Beast. It enables the Glimpse. What is he gonna do? Pokey stick us? I guess I could just enable Doom Beast with Stalking Shadow for a normal person. I can't really glimpse this safely. Flow. Good old triple Doom Beast. Yeah, but I don't really need to glimpse this turn unless he taps under. He has no attack here, so I want to see if he taps under before attacking, because then I'll go for the proactive glimpse when he's. But if I save Cask, then I can drop both Doom Beasts on the attack turn. It does kind of have to be better. I'm not overhealing if I do that. All right, so now he tapped. Oh no, he got the discount from Mayor, so he still has Pokey Stick. So I still can't use like Cask Glimpse. Why am I running Cask in this deck? What am I doing? I mean, if he does this attack, that can literally only be good for me, because I'm triple Doom Beasting anyway, right? Yeah, burn my mana, buddy. That's you have to do this here. All right, seems good. All right, now we've got the double glimpse. This is good. We're just going for the full burn at this point. Like units basically don't matter anymore. If you were wondering why we didn't play that Doom Beast last turn, I mean, we don't have a wider board than him anyway. Like we don't have attackers anymore. We have blockers. But now that we've got both glimpses, we can play pretty safely around Pokey Stick. How safe? How safe is safe? Poor Elise. So sad. Like, I need both of these glimpses to get off. It's actually super important. I wish I was counting what his tree charges were. Okay, so he played the spiders, the telescope. I'm pretty slow. Yeah, I easily outburn that no matter what. So I can't afford to give Pokey Stick any value whatsoever. But I need to be mana efficient. Yeah. I can't have any mana burned at this point because we're drawing 5 cards next turn. Okay. I mean, sure. All right. So yeah, we're gonna go fast enough to beat the tree, but we can't try to use glimpse. Like even if it goes glimpse into Pokey into glimpse on the stack, that's still not good for me. Like if I can get the Pokey out first, then I'm actually winning the game off of that. There goes your fearsome blocker. I wonder if you needed that.
What's your hurry?
Getting at least damage here is actually really good, because if she's at 1 health, then it can bait out a Pokey Stick or a like she attacks next turn. He has no fearsome blocker, and then he passed the Pokey Stick, and then we glimpse after the stick. So I actually need Elise to get damaged here. And this one I'm killing just so that he has no choice but to pokey stick the Elise when they attack, because this is his only fearsome blocker. This is so weird. I mean, the mana at this point doesn't really matter. Like, if he's burning mana too, that's only good for me. His mana is necessary to accelerate his win condition. But if he spends some mana, I'll probably just open and glimpse the Doom Beast at that point. Use at least one of them. Shadow Tech, so he's got Ionia too. Yeah, I'll use one of my glimpses on the Doom Beast. That should be perfect. I could also make an Ephemeral Doom Beast right now with Fading Memories. Fading is basically always going to be best in slot on this Doom Beast. And Ephemeral might matter if I'm going to block on his open attack next turn. Yeah, I guess I do just Fading it then. Okay. Yeah, let's sacrifice an Ephemeral one instead. I'm not using the mana this turn. Okay, perfect. Can't discard our glimpses. That's amazing. All right, the glimpses are more damage. We don't need anything else. All right, amazing. And he doesn't have enough mana to stop this even in a bizarre hand. Okay, perfect. A little bit more damage, just anything. Anything at all. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That looks like enough damage to me. I mean, I'm no mathematician. Like, I'm pretty happy with this. It all just worked out. Also, he still doesn't have a fearsome blocker. Whee! What if I just... All right. Another pretty favored matchup. Prankster's feeling better and better. I could go back to 3 Prankster. 2 feels good. I think I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of 3 Prankster. 3 Prankster, 1 Cask. 1 Cask is the sweet spot. This is it. It's a pretty simple deck. I mean, there's no interesting ratios to do here. Usually when you see like more refined decks, like if you look at like my net decks, there's usually more 1-ofs and 2-ofs than 3-ofs. It's a pretty rare time when I'm just going full BBG and just have 13 3-ofs in this deck. But this one ends up optimizing it at, yeah, 3 Prankster, 1 Cask feels good. Obviously it's going to depend a lot on like micro meta adjustments. Let me paste the code for you guys in chat, because I mean, as you were saying, the deck tracker is currently a little bit broken. So if you guys want to play around with this deck, I mean, it's a very, very good deck. Probably not tier 1. It'll be somewhere in tier 2. Probably only a little bit worse than Spiders. Here's the code now. It's like it's basically on par with Spider Burn. I would say it's a little bit worse into the current meta. Like the reason, okay, so the thing is, like a lot of people might ask, like, okay, Swim, if you say this is a tier 2 deck, then why isn't it on the tier list? And you know, I mean, I keep my tier list up to date, and I could list a bunch of decks, like for example Prankster Burn. It would be a tier 2 deck if it was on the tier list, at least. Maybe in this meta it could actually be low tier 1, but ultimately it's probably just a little bit worse than Spiders. And they're doing very, very similar things, right? Like they're using a lot of the same cards. Stygian Onlooker is, you know, a very, very important aspect to this list. So I don't think this will be better than Spiders, and that's why it's not on the tier list, right? Draven, discard PNZ. Attacking on odds makes me not want Cask Salesman. Cask Salesman is definitely better when we're attacking an even. I mean, Elise is good either way. All right, bit of an awkward hand potentially. We do have Boom Crew and Elise attacking on 3 together. And this is also a pretty good deck. Like, you know, Rumble Draven is solid if he's not running any troll cards.
First big mission. That's always been there.
Yeah, I think I have to block this. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. If he's gonna 2-for-1 himself on my Boom Crew rookie, I have to be okay for that. The thing is, like, so this is a matchup where I want to extend my life. Burn is a deck that can play slower. I just want to make sure I'm maximizing on value. Like here, like I'm not gonna run out of steam. He can't kill me on turn 8 because he's not running Scion, which means if I slow the game down, ugh, that's annoying though. Yeah, this is bad. We probably lose, but either way, like the trade on Boom Crew rookie is important because we need to just like slow the game down. Prankster is actually a good draw here, but only if Stalking Shadows hits something for it to combine with. Prankstering right now doesn't even do anything, so I'll just Stalking Shadows first. Yeah, I can't need the spell mana for anything else. This game is almost certainly lost. I was probably like 40% to win this before that happened. Bad. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, you can say you replace Stalking Shadows for a different engine card, but Stalking Shadows is worth like the 10% chance of losing the game. Even when you whiff, it usually doesn't lose you the game unless it's a game like this where whiffing matters a lot. Okay, salvaging. It's not Doom Beast here. This game doesn't look very salvageable. This was like the one game where I couldn't have afforded to whiff that. Yike, yeah, that's a big yike. All right, now we draw a Glimpse or another Stalking, basically. Doom Beast is all right here. So Costa Cask is pretty nice as a way of enabling the Nightfall. If he's burning his own mana, I can only prefer that. That's all right for him. Mana burn is a bit negative for me now. I think I have to assume my mana matters. My win condition is top decking like Glimpse and Stalking Shadows. We need more value. And if we're about to top deck one, then my mana efficiency is actually going to matter here. So I do actually have to play for this rather than burning my mana. Sort of have a bit of an attack with Doom Beast here. I mean, forcing this exchange this turn instead of next turn is probably slightly better. If he goes for the Revenant, that actually slows him down a ton. I think I'm all right with this. I guess it's a little weird depending on my top deck because I might want to fading the Doom Beast to enable my other Doom Beast, but I'm actually good here. All right. This is okay, guys. We've got some damage.
Locked and loaded. Working as intended.
All right. I mean, we basically have nothing for the Rumble. We don't have a chump blocker for the Rumble without cloning the Spider. Yeah, this draw was basically the awkward thing about forcing the Doom Beast exchange. Because now, like, I can't open fading on something relevant into my Doom Beast. I can't enable the Nightfall. Slow play this. Okay, so if I slow play this, we have... So I burn all this mana. We go into fading something next turn, into Doom Beast something next turn. We've got a total of... We burn our mana doing that. He goes to 13 here. Effective 7. Loses 4 off of the 2 Doom Beasts. And then more to the Prankster burn. So if he doesn't have a way to kill my Prankster, then I win on his next attack 2 turns from now, regardless of mana cost. So I pass here. He can literally like chompers into whirling though. Okay. So right now, the reason I took that pass there is because we're not mana throttled, right? We've got potentially 2 damage off this Poro Cannon. Yeah, going wide here is good, even if he has blockers. So Poro Cannon will be our trigger, right? So one of the get exciteds goes first. All right, nice. The sequence here basically can't matter. All right, if we win, it's because he can't remove this Prankster. This Prankster has to kill, I guess, right now. So the reason I pass there and burn my mana is because my mana doesn't matter, right? Like, Get Excited is basically a 0 mana card. The point is when they're using it on the attack turn. So we don't have any more damage with the other Daring Pora apart from like trading down the board. The Doom Beast does have the opportunity to come down next turn though. He has no ability. Right, he's not leveling his Rumble or anything. If he's doing an open attack, like staying out of his ranges actually matters. Yeah, so cloning the Doom Beast now is good. But yeah, it looked weird to pass last turn, but we need to maximize our damage because we're looking for a turn 8 kill. That's kind of like how we're looking to win the game. And our mana doesn't matter because Get Excited is a 0 mana card because we're using this on his last attack turn in which all of our other mana is locked out, right? Like, so if you actually like looked at our hand, we didn't really have a way to use any mana that we would have saved by playing deeper into a turn we shouldn't have played into, if that makes any sense. This is giving his Rumble like 1 extra potential level trigger. That can't possibly matter though. The biggest problem here is like if he uses Flame Chompers, dragging my Prankster, and then like turns around and whirling death to my Prankster, that would be really bad. And of course, we discard one of the Get Exciteds because we're planning out all of our actions and we know we don't have enough hand space. We don't have enough discard targets to support both Get Exciteds and the Pora Cannon anyway. The Pora Cannon activates the Nightfall by discarding the first Get Excited, and then we're maximizing by using Fading on the Doom Beast. This is an alright draw. He shouldn't be able to kill us this turn anyway. Alright, looks good. Looks good. Oh god, no whirling, please. Oh, come on. Not like this. Oh! Wait, that's so funny. I can Get Excited that to keep my Prankster alive now, and he can't really save it. And my Prankster has to be worth more. Wow, that's dumb. I mean, my Prankster is literally just worth more. Yeah. There's no way he can counter this, right? There's no way he can save it or re-threaten Prankster unless he has Whirling, in which case he's just trolling anyway. Alright. I guess we're just in. This is so stupid. Ooh. 1 health with ignition. GG. That's really sad. Just double might. Well, it had to happen at one point, guys. We dropped the game with this list. It's his attack token. What if I draw a Doom Beast here, actually? Ignite slow speed. Dude, if I drew...
We're getting hot, hot, hot.
Maybe this guy will just... Dude, we were so close to winning this. That was insane. Sag. Just let me kill myself at least. Just don't ignite. You don't need to. I'll die first here. Come on. What is this? Just BM me. Just pass. It's good BM. Even pass. Alright, we finally dropped the game with the burn deck. Very, very close one. Copy Twin Blade Revenant. It would have been an interesting line. I honestly, I think copying the Twin Blade Revenant would have actually been good that game because he wasn't running Scion. If you noticed, our entire game plan revolved around him not running Scion. If he's running Scion, we have to play faster. But because he's not running Scion, we can slow down because we can actually like potentially outvalue him. So yeah, something like copying the Twin Blade Revenant does make sense there, I think. Yeah, it does. But yeah, overall, super solid deck. I'd happily recommend even like the one of Caustic Cask feels really good here. I know it looks kind of trolly. Caustic Cask is a pretty great one of in general. By the way, this is not like the first time this card's ever like seen play either. It's been a while. But I ran this in like older versions of Prankster Burn too. It's not like the craziest thing ever. It's just a solid curve card that will apply pressure and just like bail out some weird hands, right? It's just a ratioer. All right, so yeah, no, that's the Prankster deck. Had a lot of fun today.